There's one thing that I want to impress Kuma South African, as now the talk is about land expropriation. And I wish it was more of industrial land as opposed to land to create squatter camps. Yes, the land debate is very crucial. The PAC was set up to address the land issue. And all arguments for land expropriation, I cannot falter them on paper. They are valid and they make sense. But here's my concern. Here in South Africa, because we've got a history. Actually, in Africa, the history of thinking as we go. We think as we go. There was globalization. We went to conferences, go G20, G7 meetings without the local agenda. When other countries came into those meetings with their agenda, imposing it, making it international agenda. So land expropriation, we can see now that the West or the capitalists, they're not happy. And rest assured, they are going to react. The capitalists, especially white capitalists, they always support one another. And it is unfortunate that our economy is so tied up in the economy of the West. These guys, whenever they sneeze, we get affected. But whenever we sneeze, they go on with life as usual. And we are told that this is globalization. But it's only them who are affecting us. And they are going to react. So my concern is this. Well, I can't go back to the era of Gaddafi because that's when he would have come in handy, because the guy was talking about the African Bank and with the establishment of the African currency, whether it's dinar or afro, doesn't matter. So long as we are going to have the African Bank so that you can move away from the dollar. Because we know now that a country can have everything, oil, diamonds, food, but if it doesn't have the dollar, that country becomes poor by default, because you need a dollar to move goods and services. And hence, the global economy, it's skewed and in favor of the so-called superpowers, who are not supposed to be superpowers because they've got paper money, which is worthless. It's not measured by gold. It's measured by speculators. But now let me give you a history of these capitalists and show you how cruel they can be. Look at Haiti. The liberation, more than 200 years. They defeated France. They were punished. Sanctioned. Even if, although some of the capitalists came in to Haiti, they did not invest. They looted that country. They looted. The money that they took out of that country, they never invested it back. Haiti, it's one of the poorest countries in the world, next to United States. Next to United States. Look at Spain. When Spain, in the 1400s, just going to the 1500s, expelled the Jewish capitalists, They never recovered. And Spain was the Mecca of capital. They've never recovered. Even today, how many years, how many centuries? When Zimbabwe took land, rightfully so, the West reacted with sanctions. And unfortunately, African countries were not together, because that's the only way we can counter sanctions. Intra-trade amongst African states, so that whatever that you were getting from states, Britain, you can get it from Gabon, Burkina Faso, whatever African state, you can trade and have currency. That is African, like Euro. Zimbabwe will never recover. These guys, they hate being humiliated. White people cannot be humiliated by black people. And then it's business as always, or as usual. They will never. Look at Cuba. It humiliated America. Yes, with the backing of Russia. But Cuba, they've been crying and saying, we have tried to be investor friendly for international investors. United States and Western powers say, no, can't invest there. Even Iran humiliated America. America and the West, they will make sure that they punish Iran for decades and centuries to come. These guys, they never forget. They never forgive. So here, as we think, as we go, so bona phambili, I wish there were steps towards softening or cautioning the after effects of land expropriation if such policy is true, not a bluff. Because these guys, they are going to react like they reacted in Burkina Faso. Even today, the impact still felt. Wherever these guys, they were humiliated. The only countries that recovered is Germany, because obvious, fellow whites. Japan, they were called honorary whites, especially after their recovery, coming from World War. Then Japan tried to be clever. Some say they used weather weapons against them and created that Fukushima disaster. But the West, they never forget. White people never forget. Look at those guys in 1968 Mexico Olympics who lifted the fist, Black Power. When they came back, they were never forgiven. Never. Isolated, not given jobs. They never forget. From countries to individuals, they never forget. Look at O.J. Simpson. They'll never forget him. They will try. It's just that he's lucky. He's got friends, who's still pumping money secretly and say, O.J., come stay here. They don't forget these guys. Go Michael Jackson. They're still haunting Michael Jackson, even now, because he humiliated them. That catalog, Kama Beatles and Elvis Presley, and that issue of white kids, and he started hitting back against Zionists, Satanists. These guys, they never forget. Look at Muhammad Ali. They loved him. But remember, during his funeral, they came up with all those stories. During the time when Muhammad Ali was banished, he was going, to rallies talking about black power, emancipation. They recall those videos and say, hey, remember guys, this guy is a devil. These guys, they never forget. And unfortunately, our economy is so tied up together, and we don't have a solution. So bona phambili, when the sewage pipe burst open, everything that we do, even this pen, we don't produce. Even this hat, simple thing, we don't produce. This t-shirt, we don't produce. And these guys, when they switch off the tap, what's next? BMW, Mercedes-Benz, the store. These guys, they're cruel. They never forget. When they hit you, especially if you've humiliated them, they never forget. Look at all those countries where they humiliated white power. It's never the same. It's never the same. We should take that into account. And I wish South Africans or the government was doing something. We don't even have institutions teaching people how to farm so that we don't die from hunger when they hit us with food embargoes, because we're now buying overseas. During the Boers, we're producing more locally. Now we're buying everything overseas. Petrol, everything. We give them raw materials. And these guys are so cruel. They isolate you. Your currency, boo, and make an example out of you. Look at Zimbabwe. African countries were supposed to rally behind Zimbabwe and say, don't worry, we will provide. We will trade with you. We've got gold, you've got bricks, you've got whatever. Let us rebuild and, circulate the currency amongst African countries. It's not happening. You become a Jesus alone. And others, they say, no, we don't want to fall into the same trap. That's the unfortunate part of it. But I can tell you, capital never forget. And they always retaliate for eternity. They hit you. And abelungu, ngesolidarity, bazokushaya.